Hello and welcome to Direct Approach with Wayne Moorehead, an exclusive podcast by Direct Selling News, where host Wayne Moorehead interviews the channel's leading corporate executives to provide timely insights and relevant takeaways to help you grow and evolve your businesses. In today's episode, Wayne is joined by John Licari, Chief Operating Officer at Total Life Changes. Total Life Changes, or TLC, was founded in 1999 as a nutrition supplement company, and today it boasts a full line of products designed for weight management, full body nutrition, skincare, and more. In April 2022, it landed on Direct Selling News' Best Places to Work in Direct Selling list for the third consecutive year. Fueled by positivity, passion, and purpose, TLC has created a culture built around relationships with its employees, distributors, and customers. While working on a production line for Ford Motor Company, John reluctantly joined TLC part-time in 2003, persuaded by his friend and company founder, Jack Fallon. In the early years, they worked out of Jack's basement, and John gradually fell in love with both the product and the business model. On this episode of Direct Approach, John and Wayne talk about his unusual path to discovering direct sales, and he reveals some of the risks he took to help propel the company's growth. John also shares what he believes all direct selling companies can learn from Amazon, why it's important to rethink legacy sales model for a digital generation, and why collaboration amongst companies in the channel is our best bet for the future. You'll also hear why attitude is so critical to success and how it guides his most important leadership principles. Before we dive into the interview, we want to invite you to save the date for the Fall 2022 DSU event taking place Thursday, October 6th and Friday, October 7th in Dallas, Texas. Join us for a completely reimagined format with more how-tos and takeaways than ever before. DSU is where executives come to learn from more than 30 of the most successful, highest performing, and uniquely innovative companies in the channel. Go to DSU2022.com for more details. And now, please help me welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's guest, John Licari, Chief Operating Officer at Total Life Changes.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and I'm very fortunate today to be joined by a very inspiring individual that's helped build one of the incredible businesses in the direct selling channel. He's the COO of Total Life Changes, TLC, if you know that. John Licari. John, welcome so much to Direct Approach.
Wayne, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I want to say thanks for doing this. I think the industry definitely needs more advocates and definitely needs someone we can rally around and something we can look forward to. And, I've been kind of going through some of your content from previous episodes, and I just want to say thank you for serving. I'm all about serving, and I know that you're doing your best you can. And so I think it's the right thing to do to say thank you on behalf of the industry, because it's a beautiful industry. And those of us that love it and know how special it is, we just got to get out there and share. So thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been amazing. Selfishly for me, I learned so much and I meet so many incredible individuals like yourself. So I'm so glad that Stuart and Shelley gave me the opportunity to do this. But I agree, anything we can do to help the channel as a whole, what helps one helps all of us. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You are more than welcome, my friend.
So I'd love to dig in on some of the elements that have been really critical to TLC success, and then kind of transition into get your perspective on some of the really, significant and seismic changes that are happening in the channel. We're all aware of it. We're talking about it all the time. And so I'd love to kind of start out with first your origin story. It's a really cool, inspiring story. As I read about it and watched some of the videos on it, it reminded me of the Rudy story a little bit. So I'd love for you to take us through kind of your origin story and how you ended up in direct selling.
Well, first of all, that's one of my favorite movies. So
mine too.
Now you really got me thinking. My story is really one that I think about often. Sometimes I look back on the story and I'm kind of almost, I don't want to say embarrassed, but like, man, I wish I could have gotten through to that kid. I wish I could have, changed his mind, and I wish I could have made him open up his mind, right? And so that's really a huge part of what I do today, is just trying to talk to people and get them to just think a little bit differently. But, it was 1994. I was a 19-year-old kid. I grew up in suburban Detroit. My dad and my mom both worked in factories. My mom worked in a potato chip factory, worked there for 33 years. My dad did 30 years at Ford Motor Company. But this was like the American dream of the Midwest, right? And so that's what we were taught. Like, you're either going to go to college, get this degree, and have a great life, or you're going to work in the factory, get your pension, get your health benefits. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. All you got to do is work for 30 years and you'll never have to work again. Kind of sounds good, right? I was fortunate in 1994, Ford Motor Company started hiring people for the first time in about 15 years. And so my dad, having, seniority and, a lot of relationships within the factory, was able to get me a job at Ford Motor Company, 19 years old. Now, mind you, I'm already running my own landscaping company. So I'm kind of got the entrepreneurial spirit to a certain extent already going on. I've got, plenty of work to do. And my dad's like, no, you have to take this opportunity. You have no idea how important this is and how lucky you are, right? And of course, my mother's telling me the same thing. You are so lucky. And in Detroit, everybody's telling you you're lucky. Your friends, your neighbors. I was like, oh, wow, you got a job at Ford Motor Company? That's great. That's awesome. You're so lucky, right? So for a little while, you kind of believe that, right? Well, everyone's telling me this is great. It must be great. So I get there. And, within a couple of days, I realized, like, man, I don't know if this is for me. I mean, I don't mind working. I've always had a great work ethic, but, you got to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. The line can never stop. You can't even be 1 second late because you might not even work that day if you're late because the line's got to start. There's someone already there. So, within the first few days, I started to second guess, like, man, do I really want to be here? So the coolest thing that happened to me was 1 week after starting, another guy started around my age. His mom got him a job as well. And his name was Jack Fallon. He's my best friend. He's my partner, and he's our CEO here at TLC. So that's where we met. We met on this assembly line at Ford Motor Company. So we get to, working next to each other, and, kind of working next to each other on the assembly line is kind of like having a cellmate in prison. Whether you like it or not, you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. So the good news is we became friends pretty quickly. We had a lot of the same likes. A lot of the same hobbies, and so, those are the things that kind of bound us in the beginning. And then as we got to know each other a little bit more, I would share with Jack how I made extra money, which was through landscaping. So Jack then started sharing with me what he did for extra money. And what he did for extra money was network marketing. He was part of American Communications Network, ACN, back then in 1994, and he had just gotten started with it, and he was excited and passionate about it, and he would tell me about it every day, and he's like, no, Johnny. He used to call me Johnny then, and he calls me Johnny now. He said, Johnny, you don't understand. This is an amazing opportunity. There's awesome people. There's different way of thinking, and you're going to expose yourself to a network of people that are going to just make you become better and think differently, and, being around and circle of influence and the average of the 5 people you hang around with and all this other stuff. And I would just tell him all the time, like, this sounds like a cult. This sounds like something I want nothing to do with. What he was really trying to expose me to, Wayne, and really I think is the most undervalued thing with network marketing, was not so much even the channel or the model, but the personal development that came with it. The network of people that you would meet and be able to spend time with and listen to and hear from and open your mind because of. I just didn't understand. And it seemed so scary to me. After 5 years of bickering, Jack Fallon came to Ford Motor Company one day, and his passion stopped me in my tracks. And so I say this all the time. And, anybody listening today, like, whatever you're passionate about, share it, tell it, let the world know. I don't care what it is. Whether it's anything from fishing to golfing to gardening, like whatever you're passionate about, just tell people, because you never know where it's going to go. So Jack found one day, after 3 different network marketing companies that he kept on not having success at, he came to work one day and he said, you know what, Johnny? He said, the world needs a liquid multivitamin. I was like, what? He goes, you don't understand. People are taking vitamins in capsule form or tablet form, and it's not absorbing into the body. We need a delivery system that's liquid, and the food source has changed so much in the last 50 years. And did you know that oranges don't even have vitamin C in them anymore because everything's changing? And so here's this ADD, non-detail oriented person just going crazy about this idea. And guess what happened to me? Like, I stopped in my tracks And for the first time in 5 years, I was actually listening. I stopped to listen because I was like, he was so passionate. He was so excited about it. And a lot of what he was saying made sense. And I felt it. So I remember as one of those two defining moments in my TLC career, because obviously I wasn't in TLC yet, and TLC wasn't even a thing yet. It was that one moment where I was like, wow, I actually that day listened, and I kind of sort of went from being an adversary to maybe not being an advocate, but at least I wasn't an adversary anymore. And I kind of sort of wanted him to win. But of course, my my DNA came out a few minutes later, and I said, but how are you going to do this? How are you going to get this vitamins, have it bottled, have it shipped to you, sell it? Who's going to buy it? How much is it going to be? And then I started saying to myself, I don't think it's going to work. You're trying to get a new house, and just, I'm telling him every reason why you shouldn't do this. Right. But again, the passion kind of had me thinking. So Jack does it anyway, because that's just what Jack does. He's a visionary. Once he puts his mind to something, he's going to, take massive action and make it happen. And he starts selling NutriBurst. Now, no MLM, no network marketing. I mean, this is just trunk of his car on the factory floor, friends and family type of business, just direct sales. And guess what? It's going very well. People love the vitamin, including me. We all started drinking it and we loved it. But that's all it was just retail sales. And then one day he comes in and he just says, you know what? I'm going full-fledged network marketing with NutriBurst. The company's going to be called Total Life Changes. And I want to do everything. I want to send checks. I want to have customer service. I want people to come and visit the office, and which was going to be in a basement of a, small Michigan home. So, and I was like, what? Are you out of your mind? He had a young baby on the way, a young child on the way. He had just gotten married. And I was like, don't do this, Jack. I was like, you're going to fail. You're going to go out of business. You're going to lose your money. And he's like, no, it'll be fun and you can help me. And I was like, oh no, absolutely not. I'm trying not to swear here. I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to help you. I said, I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't want to be associated with it. I would never want my friends and family knowing that I have any part of it. So you can absolutely count me out. But Jack is Jack. And Jack said, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And so he did it. And he launches. One day, Jack said something to me, and he was basically speaking my language. He spoke to me the way I needed to be spoken to at that moment in my life. He said to me, Johnny, I could really use some help at TLC. I could really use someone to come and help me just ship NutriBurst so I can stay on the phone, so I can, make things happen. And he goes, so I know you like to keep busy. I know you like to make extra money. He goes, why don't you come and help me? You'll make some extra money, 2-3 hours a day. He goes, it'll be fun. It'll be great. You won't have to talk to anybody. So I thought about it for a few minutes. He was speaking my language, Wayne. I mean, that was me, right? So he was talking to me at that moment in my life. And I was like, okay. So, little did I know, and I figured it out later, like he just figured out a way to just get me in. Right. And I learned so much from this. Right. I mean, that's part of why I'm so big on sampling, and I'm so big on just letting people decide on their own that they want to be a bigger part of what you're doing. So I get in, I just do my thing for a few weeks. Right. And this lady calls and she asks me a question, or actually she tells me why she's calling. She tells me her name. I write down her phone number. I said, Jack's going to call you back a little later. He's got a few people in front of you. And she's like, okay, the reason why I'm calling is because I was just really, really curious and even nervous to make sure that my NutriBurst went out yesterday, because we're almost out. And if I run out for the weekend, it's going to be like the end of the world for me. So here I am on this phone. Every preconceived notion, every opinion I had, every conviction I had, like, I'm not talking to anybody, I'm not doing anything, I don't want nobody to know I'm doing this, right? All this is a scam, this is a scheme and all that stuff. And I am just, within 4 seconds, my life changed. And here's why. I decided at that moment, I know I can find out the answer to this. Should I do it, or should I have Jack find out later? So this ethical battle is going on, moral battle is going on in my head. I say, can you hold, please? So I put the phone on hold. I go to yesterday's shipping manifest. I find her order. I get back on the phone. And I tell her, ma'am, I've got great news for you. Your NutriBrew shipped yesterday. We send everything priority mail. There's no reason why you will not get it by Friday. And you would think that I just told her you won $1 million. She was screaming and yelling. And I don't know if she was doing cartwheels. I mean, just there's just so much noise, background stuff going on, right? And just the excitement and the sheer joy. And I was like taken aback and mesmerized. And I was like, wow. And then she went on to say like how not only did the products change her life, but her and her husband have been selling it and they've been making extra money, and all of her neighbors and her family and friends are purchasing it, and it's awesome and it's great, and Jack's amazing and we love TLC. And I was off, I got off of that phone call and I was like, wow, that was the coolest thing that I've ever been a part of in my life. And that's when I realized that, man, I really love helping people.
Wow. What an incredible, inspiring story. There's so many lessons in there that I want to circle back to a little bit. One, just how fortunate was it that you and Jack were teamed up? I think sometimes we don't often realize the impact that those people that are in our circle of influence, whether they're put there for a reason or just happenstance, but the impact that they can have on our lives. We don't always know it immediately, but as we look back and connect the dots, we can really see the impact that people have. And I know that's been true for me as well. Another thing is just the courage that it took both of you, I think, to walk away from Ford. That is for many people, as you mentioned, a winning lottery ticket to get that job, the 30 years, and at a pretty young age, you get to retire and then go do whatever you want. But the courage that must have taken, and I'm sure maybe even the flack a little bit that you got from friends and family who looked at it from, the winning lottery ticket perspective, but both of you with that entrepreneurial spirit that you had. I mean, I'm just guessing that, looking down the barrel of 30 years at Ford, which again, to some people would look like, an amazing sunset, but for you, that had to be really hard with that entrepreneurial spirit kind of burning bright inside. How did you balance that? The stability with that drive to go do something else and to go create something on your own?
Well, to be totally honest with you, Wayne, I mean, Jack ended up leaving in, during the economic downturn in 2008. Ford Motor Company did some buyouts and he was just like chomping at the bit to leave and do, TLC 100% of the time. So he took that leap of faith and it was really, really hard for him. I mean, he told me, he got that buyout check, which was about $60,000. I mean, they were buying your rights away for $60,000 cash. And, he said he sat in his car with that check in his hand and he cried. He knew it was over. I mean, this was a safety net. This was, the only thing we knew. This was, like you said, it's kind of almost like winning the lottery here in the Metro Detroit area. So I didn't actually decide to leave until 2012. And the way I really decided to leave was, this will resonate with probably some people that listen to this. I was listening to Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins one day. And, he said something that I had heard 150 times probably at that point in my life, right? It's like, if you want to take the island, you got to burn the boats. Whatever reason, I caught it that day, it hit me that day. And I had been in my mind saying to myself, when TLC's revenue gets to here, I'm going to leave this safety net that I have. So my family and everyone's going to be more comfortable with it. And that day I heard that, I knew what it meant. But for whatever reason that day, I realized like, what, if I don't leave this, our revenue's never going to get to here. If I don't leave this, we're never going to get that momentum. We're never going to have that consistency that we talk about and preach and tell people about all the time. So, I got to walk away from this. It's the right thing to do. It feels scary, but it feels right. And so in 2012, I decided I'm out. I'm just out. And, so I eventually walked away and it was tough. Friends thought it was the wrong decision. My wife, Christina, she, of course she said she supported it, but I could tell for the next 12 months, she didn't really talk to me as much as she used to, and you know what? It's challenging here too. We have good days, bad days, good years, bad years. It hasn't always been perfect, but man, it's always been on our terms. Yeah. And it's been beautiful. And I want to be honest with you, I didn't go from working, 40 hours there and 40 hours here to working, 40 hours here. No, I went from working 80 total to working 100 total sometimes, right? And traveling and everything else. But it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to be a part of. And it's been awesome.
Wow, that's amazing. Again, it's very obvious you've made the right decision. And, not just from the success that the company's had, but also from just the number of lives you've been able to impact is exponential compared to, if you had stayed there. A couple of the other kind of lessons that I pulled out from here, and again, I'm kind of looking down at my notes. I was just writing pretty feverishly. So the importance of having a product that really works. That story that you mentioned of the woman that called in and said she has to have her product before the weekend, making sure that, we don't just have the right compensation plan lined up and the right leaders and brand and all that, but ensuring that it's built on a real foundation of products that provide real value, I think is going to make all the difference for the success. Another is just getting started. That where Jack got you in just a little bit. He got your toe in the water and knew that you'd eventually get the bug for direct selling, like many of us do, and that your perspectives would change. I think there's a really important lesson there of just get started, just get people engaged, give them one experience, give them two experiences, find some way to provide them value. But I think that's a really valuable insight and takeaway for me, for sure.
So I think we have to get creative with how do we get people, like you said, even just to get their toe in the water. And so that's something that I think is challenging even more so right now, because there's also some things going on out there in the marketplace that I quite don't understand. And I don't know that anybody else does. And, Wayne, we were both, lucky to be in a room with 80 executives a couple of weeks ago, right? And I think this topic came up, and really nobody had an answer to this, but everybody agreed that this was going on. We are living in almost like a matrix right now, or some sort of, we don't even know what it is, but there's a lot of people who are kind of like on pause.
Yeah.
And they're not purchasing, they're not selling, they're not really doing, and most of them actually need to, but for whatever reason, there's some strange kind of like pause, like almost like a worldwide pause going on, where it's just really hard to get people to engage and people to get back to, like, some of the people actually need the money right now. And there's still something going on that's not allowing them to just start, like you said, right? Like, you just got to start. You just got to go through the motions. Sometimes you don't feel like it, you just got to do it, right? I'm sure everyone's been in the gym where they don't feel like it, right? And you just go for it and you do it. And eventually you forget that you don't want to be there, and you do it and you get done, and, it's good for you. And so I think there's multiple, challenges that we face right now. I think some of them will fix themselves in the near future. But I think, what COVID really did for the industry in the world was, I think everything that was going to happen for the next 10 years happened in 6 months, right?
100%.
We went 100% virtual. We had to go, we had to leverage technology. We had to get really, really, really creative with, handling all the sales volume and, hiring people, because people didn't want to, work, obviously, because they were worried about everything. So, but we can do it. We can do it. There's some great things here that the world wants. And we, our model is just, and our channel is just, it's a beautiful thing. And more of us have to speak about how great it is.
Absolutely. I've had the same experience as you as well. You look around the channel, I think part of it is just so many things happened on top of one another. 2022 and 21, the potential recession that, we might be looking at here coming in the future, inflation, the Great Resignation. I mean, so many things have piled on top that I think it's spun us all around a little bit. The landscape is definitely shifting under our feet. I think we're all looking at, okay, so what direction am I supposed to start running now? What changes do I need to make? Because it was just this one after another. And I am really proud of how the channel reacted and pivoted and evolved so quickly. As you mentioned, those trends that were 10 years out were staring us in the face, within just a few months. And I think that's part of it as well. Like we literally are kind of, in shock a little bit from all of this change, all these new dynamics, and we're just trying to figure out the new way forward. I'm curious. I know that, 2020 and 2021, especially for nutrition companies, for companies in other categories, demand increased significantly. And, TLC has always been growing. It's always had great growth. And that was true for those years as well. I'm curious your perspective on those distributors and, maybe even field leaders that kind of came in at that point. How were they different because I think people are trying to figure out that group as well. Especially, it was just so different from so many other cohorts or segments of distributors that came in. How have you seen that 2020, 2021 distributor base? How are they different? How are their needs and wants different? How do we help make sure that we retain them, move them along the path and get them to continue to grow?
Great question, Wayne. And I think that this is something that, we had to really wrap our head around, getting into like the third quarter of 2021. We really started to really take a deep dive into the data. And we had to remind ourselves like, okay, here we are in this industry that, people are a part of it for a couple different reasons: to make full-time income, to make part-time income, or to just be part of the products in the community. Right. And so, that's always been true, especially here in the United States. I think most of our market here is part-time distributors. They're just looking to make part-time money. And that's great. I think it's beautiful. But in 2020, what happened, you look back in hindsight and you're like, okay, I kind of get it now. So many people joined us because they weren't making any money. They didn't know if they were going to make any money. They received some money from the government, through stimulus or whatever. So so now it's like, okay, what should I do with this? Should I invest it? When is my unemployment check going to come? So you had all these people, and especially us, we were a beneficiary of two things. We had all these people who were looking to make money, especially people who were used to getting paid daily, like waitresses and bartenders. Like they joined by the hundreds an hour. It was almost unbelievable. There was instances where we thought this must be fraud. Like so many people. And so we were actually lucky too, because we had just launched daily pay for our retail sales 30 days before the pandemic started. Totally like luckiest moment ever for us. Right. So you can get started with us today. You can get paid tomorrow. People were looking for it. They were also worried about their immune system. So of course we have these immune supporting products. So boom, perfect storm. And, all these people started to join, but what we didn't realize until several months and maybe even a year later was people joined for full-time, to become a full-time distributor, to become a part-time distributor. These people were just joining, most of them anyway, to just do something until things went back to normal. To just do something to get by, while they had the time, while they had, the need. And then when things started to get back to normal, guess what? They went back to work. They went back to their daily routines. They didn't need the money anymore, or they realized into the July and August timeframe of 2020, like, I really don't need the money. I am getting the unemployment check. I am getting the supplemental income. And so, a lot of that kind of slowly changed. But when you look back at it, you got to realize like, hey, we attracted a lot of people who were never going to be here permanently. They, even in that moment that they joined, they decide like, hey, I'm going to do this for a little while because I have to. Now it's just time to get back to business. We got to find the people that are looking for what we provide in this industry, in this channel. The opportunity to earn extra income, the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to start your own business. We're all, basically almost every single one of us are drop shipping for you now. You don't have to, have inventory at home. Like it's really as close to turnkey as you can actually get. It really, really is. And so now I think we have to stop waiting for things to go back to normal and everybody to come back. No, I think that we have to start the rally cry ourselves here, right at the top, all of us, and get back out to the people. So we're waiting for the people to come to us. Now we got to go to them. And, we try to do our part here at TLC. We're engaging every day. We have a broadcast every single day that Jack and myself do at 2 p.m. Eastern.
I've seen some of those. They're great.
Yeah, we're traveling. We still do them. And it's just really like, going back to our roots, engaging with the people. We use it as an opportunity to recognize them every single day. We kind of almost treat it like an online, a virtual event. And we just, we get on there and we just talk, we just be ourselves. And, we keep people here that are already here, and we attract new people here that are kind of looking, and it gives them the opportunity to kind of get their toe in and see what we're all about. And they're like, you know what, these guys don't seem like bad guys. I think I can trust them, and I think I'll buy a bottle of NutriBurst today. So
that's great. I do think that's super insightful about this new cohort of distributors that came in, over the last couple of years, and how their drivers and motivators might be different. And so we should expect different outcomes and different behaviors. We still need to, try to move them along the path, but we need to understand that those outcomes may be a little bit different in the past, and that we just need to kind of get back to work on that. I think that's really insightful.
I think the good news, Wayne, real quick, there is, and we all know this, already, but I think there's a small caveat there that will come back as a benefit to all of us in the future. Is they've already done it. They understand how it works. Maybe they went back to their normal life and their normal job, but life is funny. A spouse loses a job, or a spouse loses a part-time job, or you just maybe you get fired or laid off from a job. And so you've got this thing that you've done in the past, how it works, that it does work, and then that you had fun doing it. And so I think that we've been able to retain a bunch of people by keeping them on part-time, but some of them we haven't, because, when things went back to normal, kids went back to school, people went back to the office, that's a lot of multitasking that they didn't have to do for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden, hey, right back to the multitasking phase. And I think people kind of like freaked out about it. So, they're kind of like, okay, I'm not going to do this for now. So I think people will start to slowly trickle back, which we're seeing here at TLC. We're seeing, people from the past trickle back in, but we cannot take our foot off the pedal on just reaching new people. And I think that we've been distracted by some of the, quick success that we've seen the last couple of years, whether it's the stock market or crypto or real estate, right? There's all this quick success out there. Why would I want to go through this slower process of, bringing people in and growing them and building them and, helping them make extra money and training them when I can just go do this? So I think that's another one of our challenges too. There's a lot of things happening out there that, up until recently have been easier. And so, I think there's a lot of potential for our industry in the next 12 months, no matter where the economy goes. I mean, we know inflation is pretty high. We know the economy is, depending on who you're talking to, is probably heading towards, a slowdown. And I'm not even going to say the R word because I don't want to be, I don't want to.
I accidentally said it, so I'll go back and edit it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that it's very probable they may be heading that way. And one of the things that I've struggled with, even talking about that topic, is we know in our industry when that happens, it's usually pretty good for our industry. I don't wish for it. I don't want it. I don't ever say, hey, I hope there's a slowdown so people start taking network marketing seriously again. But so I think no matter which way things go, I think there's an opportunity for us. And, I think it's time to get back to work.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think all these dynamics we were just kind of outlining, I do think that it makes us even more relevant. Again, it's nothing that we wish, it's something that we hope for, but it does make us more relevant, increase the demand and the opportunity for us to impact people. Absolutely. So I'm kind of along the lines of analogies. And one of the quotes I love by Wayne Gretzky is, when asked why he was so great, he always talked about, I skated to where the puck was going, not where the puck is. And I'm having this conversation a lot with companies that, see this new, you mentioned Gen Z and this new group of distributors that came in, over the last couple of years, and a lot of the differences between maybe distributors of the past decade or two, different motivators, different drivers. How do we go after and make sure that we are really attracting and appealing to this new group while remaining relevant simultaneously to those distributors that really got us here, that have been probably leaders with us for years, depending on where we're at in our life cycle? How do we shift to bring in both, but yet make sure that we're servicing the needs of those that got us here?
Wow, that is the $1 million question, Wayne. I can't even tell you that I have a great answer for it. But here's what we have noticed here at TLC. And I think so many in the industry have. Mainstream, everything is changing, right? I mean, the mainstream economy is totally different than it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago because of, the pandemic and everything. So, how people purchase and how they want to make extra money has kind of their opinion has shifted on that, right? They want to be a quick checkout process. They want shipping to be free and fast. And if they're going to do something with you to make extra money, it better be easy to get onboarded. It better be very easy to understand. And it's got to be very elementary as far as how they make money, right? Hey, drive this person to this location. You're going to get 70% of the commission or whatever, right? Or, X amount per hour or whatever. And I think that as you look at our industry, I think our compensation plan is easy to understand, but you still probably need a 12th grade education to understand it, and I know there's some of them out there that are really, really complicated. So, we've got to just change some things up, make it easier for people to get involved, make it easier for people to understand, and make it not so, what's the word I'm looking for here? Network marketing, right? Because
Sure.
it's not understandable to the current generation of people that are looking at it. But the best point you made was, what about the people we already have? How do we keep from them feeling alienated and feeling like we're walking away from the industry? Because I'm going to be honest with you, and some other C-levels, probably this will resonate with you. I've had people call me and say, hey, why are we doing this 15-day challenge? Why are we paying people daily for retail sales? Why are we doing this extra recognition when people hit retail metrics? Like, are we walking away from network marketing? And so that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
is.
tough one to explain to the legacy network marketers, not just the ones that have been here for 5 years, but they've been in the industry for 30 years or 40 years. It's kind of like, no, we're not walking away from it. We love it, but it's changing. And if we don't change with it, we're going to be the blockbuster video story, or we're going to be, the story of the companies that just said to themselves, nope, everything's always going to be the same. And they're not even in existence anymore. And I don't want that. I need network marketing to exist. I need network marketing to be a huge part of the economy here in the United States and around the world, because I think it's a great thing. And so, but if we don't shift and get the new people excited and engaged, well, guess what? All of us that are in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, we can sustain this thing and for a little while. But if we don't get these new people excited and energized about this, we're in big, big trouble by the time 25 and 30 comes around, 225 and 2030. So we've got to address this now. We've got to figure out a way to shift and pivot a little bit. And everyone that is kind of used to the legacy way of doing things, they're just going to have to understand that, things are changing. And if you don't change with it, you're going to be very well equipped for a world that doesn't exist anymore.
I do think, especially over the next couple of years, we may need to put a little extra effort into, bringing that legacy group of distributors along. I love that you've shifted to daily pay. I think that's really cool. That really hits on, one of the changing consumer needs and wants and dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our businesses, all businesses have had to change to new consumer needs, new market dynamics, and making sure that we're doing the right thing for our companies and for the customers and distributors is going to be best for their business anyway. One of those really interesting kind of changing dynamics, we're all talking about omni-channel. The consumer now wants to get the product when, where, and how they want. And so a lot of different brands, regardless of channel, are moving and kind of blending into, each other's maybe territory of the past and moving into each other's channels. I'm curious how you feel about the impact of taking a more omni-channel approach is going to have in direct selling.
Well, if you're naive to this, then you need to learn about it as quickly as possible. Like, consumer preferences are shifting. They, first of all, when someone buys something, so Amazon changed so much for all of us, and I think, on the elementary scale, you think to yourself, well, yeah, Amazon changed everything because they ship quickly and because, their purchase price is cheap, right? And I think that's true to a certain extent, but beyond that, Amazon has really raised the bar for so many different things. Shipping speed, right? If I charge someone $10 for shipping and it takes 4 days to get there, it makes zero sense to that person. They're like, why am I paying for shipping? And why does it take 4 days for it to get here? Right? So that now is a challenge, right? If the shopping experience is 16 clicks, instead of they're used to going to Amazon and in 2 clicks, not only did they purchase the product, they're already getting a tracking number and everything. Like, if we don't shift to that, then they're going to continue to erode what we have going on, right? So I think that we have to understand why people are purchasing from where and how they're purchasing it, and try and figure out a way to really cater to that instead of trying to fight it, right? I know a lot of my, a lot of my peers in the industry are we're shutting down the Amazon sales and all that stuff. And I get that, I understand that, right? But you have to understand, they're going there for a reason. During me personally, and this might come as a surprise to so many people, I personally, during the pandemic, we were short-staffed, and I was just doing my thing, man. I was trying to lead by example, and I was in here, and I was like undercover boss, man. I was answering the phone with some of the customer service agents, sometimes 30 minutes at a time, 3 or 4 calls, and I was helping them take orders. I really wanted them to know, what, I know this is a struggle, but I'm here with you. So I remember talking to multiple people who would call, and I said, you came in through our corporate website. and you don't have a sponsor. I said, do you remember who introduced you to TLC? I would love to connect you with them so you guys could have a relationship. And I had so many people, Wayne, tell me, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'd rather just purchase from the company. I don't want anybody like being involved in my business. So that really opened my eyes and my mind to the fact that, wow, like this is real. People would rather just buy from the company than have another person involved. So there's something going on there, right? Like people just want to mind their own business and make their own money and do their own thing and not be bothered, which leads us back to network marketing. They don't want to go to meetings. They don't want to, do trainings. They don't want to public speak. They just want to make money. They just want to buy product. They don't want to do the extra stuff. And so we have to just end up figuring out a way to cater to that. But when you look at those companies, like even Amazon itself, Amazon has a link that you can share and you can make money doing so. They have an influencer program, Ulta and all these other, mainstream companies, they're looking at our channel now. They're looking at what they've learned from us and saying, how do we do that? How do we supercharge our sales and our fan base and get people engaged and do what those guys are doing, but do it in a way that they understand, as opposed to a way that sounds so foreign, right? So what we're doing sounds so foreign to so many people who are young, and they're just like, oh, I can just share my Amazon link and make 3%. I'll just do that. Yeah, it's not as lucrative. Yeah, it's not, it's not like, we know our opportunity is better, but all they know is this one's easier to understand and I can start right now. Yeah. And so I think that's kind of where we're at. Like we have to learn from, what's going on around the world.
No, absolutely. And I think especially with the explosion of digital touch points, we are having so many more people find us and interact with us, with our brands, really organically. And I still think we can find a way to service those people that find us organically, that may not have sponsors, that didn't hear about the opportunity, but to still partner with our distributors to, still pay out commissions on those types of sales. Even if somebody doesn't want to learn about the business now, they might be an amazing, prospect 2 or 3 months after, they've had some great testimonials and product experiences. But yeah, we're going to have more and more people finding us organically, outside of the traditional, distributor enrollment or customer enrollment flow. And we need to figure out how to service them and eventually, hopefully, move them through the ranks as well. But yeah, it's something that we're all kind of wrestling and struggling with.
It's a challenge, to say the least. It really, really is. But it's happening more and more and more. And we're looking at ways to handle even what I just talked about a few moments ago. We're looking at the possible co-op program to where, hey, these organic customers that come in, shifting them back to our distributor base somehow in some, organized fashion. But at the same time, we haven't even touched regulatory, right? There's privacy rules now that are way over the top. So you got to make sure you're handling all of that correctly. You got to get people's permission. You can't just do it. So there's so many different challenges wrapped within the challenges, right? You think you got a solution, right. Then you're like, oh, that's not going to work because we've got to also get this permission and this authorization, and we've got to store the credit card a certain way. And, so it's, there's a lot of challenges, but you know what? There's some great minds in this industry, and we can overcome them.
Absolutely. So as you look out at all these different dynamics and changes and shifts, whatever we call them, what are some of these changes or shifts that you are most excited about, that makes you most excited about the next few years?
We have an opportunity right now that I feel like we have not had in this industry before. More people are open to our model than ever before, especially in the up and coming generation. So, but we have to make sure they understand that what you're looking for, we have. We've got the infrastructure set up. We've been doing it for years. You want to work from anywhere, selling products, selling a service, not have to show up at an office on your time schedule. We've got that here, right? So now that's step one. We have to tell them that it's possible here. Step two, we've got to have all the technology, the ease of shopping, the ease of creating a link and sharing the link and getting paid and all that stuff. And, I'm a big believer in daily pay. So it's kind of like a two-step thing, like making sure they are aware, hey, what you're looking for already exists and it's right here. And number two, not only does it exist and is it right here, it's easy for you to tap into. It's easy for you to start and stop. And I think that's the most important thing too, that kind of like is something we have to address as an industry, is that, a lot of people are going to start and stop, over the course of the next couple of years, like we saw with COVID, right? Like you're going to start and then they're stopping. And then at some point they're going to want to come back. And, we've got these rules where you have to be active in order to earn commissions. And, you have to do a certain amount of sales or else you're not going to earn commissions. And we have to rethink some of that stuff. Like we have an influencer program here where we're letting, halfway between a customer and a distributor, we have an influencer position. They don't have to purchase every month. All they do is share product and they get paid $20 per product, right? It's very easy for them to understand. But it's not really getting off the ground the way I expected it to. And so the more research I do and the more data I collect and the more influencers I talk to, influencers are used to getting paid to share product, right? They're not used to paying so they can be active so they can get paid to share product.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So
great point.
when you tell them, hey, all you got to do is spend, X amount of dollars and you can be an influencer with us, that gives you the right to share product and make money. They're like, huh? Like this local cosmetics company is just sending me the product and telling me if I sell one, they'll give me a cut. So we've got to think that through, but that opportunity is there. It's already out there. It's already happening. So if we can figure out a way to kind of get into that same type of thinking, the same type of model, it's very close to our model. It's just shifting it a little bit. And then we got to figure out a way to make it all work because there's some legacy stuff that's there that everyone's used to. And, we don't want to, upset the apple cart too much. So I believe that we can make it work. I really, really do. And, and I know that we will.
Absolutely. It is a really exciting time for us for so many of the people that we interacted with historically that, the gig economy is now normalized, having an additional stream of income. So many of us had to be educated on direct selling and what that took. And now you're right, this new generation with the rise of social, with the rise of affiliates, with the rise of influencers, sharing products socially is just normal. It is something that they see 100 times a day. And I think that bodes really well for direct selling. I think that actually can help kind of break down a lot of those initial walls that maybe 10 years ago we needed to spend time working on and doing with people and educating them and with your experience as well to really overcome some of those preconceived notions. This new generation is just used to sharing products online. And I do think that we need to make sure that we're in the game, that we're a relevant, option in their consideration set to go and share those products. I think that's really insightful.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And I think, what I'm so grateful for with my process and my story is that no matter who I'm talking to, no matter what their mindset is, I've been in that mindset before. I've been in every single mindset over the last 25 years. So I understand no matter where you're at, and I don't judge you and I'm not upset with you, but I will talk to you the way I needed to be talked to at that moment in my life.
Absolutely. It's walking in that person's shoes. It's empathy. I think it's something that we all need to have. And from a tactical standpoint, that's what makes marketing and communication and sales effective, is really being able to put yourself in the shoes of whoever you're talking to and understand what their needs and wants and desires are and deliver on that. So is there anything out there, and maybe we even touched on it, that kind of makes you nervous? What are these changes that might be keeping you up at night a little bit?
I think regulatory is something that keeps me nervous. And I think the industry needs to, be aware of it. I don't think that we need to operate in a fashion where we're fearful every single day that, some sort of regulatory, the regulatory environment that we are in or that we keep on hearing is going to get even tougher, should stop us from doing what we're doing. I think we're doing some great things. I think that most of us are operating our companies in the most ethical manner possible. We love what we do. We totally believe in what we're doing. Where people are growing, they're becoming better versions of themselves. They're making extra money. You ask so many people, like, this is a great experience for them. And so for me, I think, if there's anything I'm fearful for is that, the regulatory environment changes to where, we get an even more black eye than we already have. And, it gets louder and, people are told to stay away and people are told that this is the big bad wolf and, it's going to hurt you. I think I'm fearful of that because I think it would be a tragedy for this industry to have to either severely change or go away, God forbid, because it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I can't imagine my life without it. I can't imagine my life without being exposed to this industry and meeting some great people and, becoming a critical thinker and just, becoming a greater version of myself every single day, even though I've been able to be myself the whole entire time. All of those things are so great. And so for me, I think that's my fear is that, public perception gets worse, regulatory gets more strict, and then we start changing what we're doing to react to that. I think that we need to hold strong, and I think we need to really just explain to people, hey, here's what we're really doing. And I think if that is explained better and articulated more correctly, I think more people would jump on board and say, yeah, this actually seems like the other way seems unethical. The other way,
Sure.
Why would we make the billion-dollar companies, and why would we give them hundreds of thousands of dollars for digital ads and for all these other things? We can just take that money and spread the wealth. I think more people would respond to that, and tell people what a positive situation this is, right? Like, one thing I say all the time is, don't tell people what you're against, tell people what you're for. Tell them why it's so great. Don't tell them why this is so bad. And I think we need to do more of that. And then, that's one of my fears, because I think we've seen it in the industry. It's kind of, the regulatory environment is kind of amped up. It's negative look on our industry.
Yeah, definitely an important consideration going forward. And I do think, as I look out across the companies in the channel today, they are doing an amazing job with delivering on products, delivering on the opportunity of really setting and meeting expectations. And I think that's a lot of where the misconceptions or misperceptions come from, is when expectations are not set accurately and definitely not met. But the companies out there today are really doing an incredible job. Yeah. So I'd love to kind of end with a little bit of a leadership lesson for you. So, looking back over the last, 15 years that you've been involved in TLC, what are some of the most important leadership lessons that you have learned personally?
There's so much I could say.
Yeah.
Wayne, but I learned this about 25 years ago from a different mentor of mine. And it always stuck with me. And I think about it every day. I say it almost every single day to members of my team. I say it on sales trainings that I'm on. Attitude is a reflection of leadership. So whatever the attitude of the leader is going to be the attitude of everybody else. If you're not enthusiastic about your product or services, they're not going to be enthusiastic about your product or services. They may start out that way, but eventually they will take on whatever you got going on, right? Whatever your feelings are, whatever your demeanor is, they're going to take that on. So, if you want everybody to be calm, you got to be calm. If you want everybody to be excited, you got to be excited. If you want everybody to be consistent, you've got to be consistent. If you want everybody to take the 15-day challenge, you got to take the 15-day challenge. I'm in the gym every day. I'm having one cookie instead of three. I'm really, really living the life. I'm really doing, and I'm really reminding myself that attitude is a reflection of leadership. Hey, nobody's doing anything. Well, what am I doing? Maybe I'm relaxing too much. Maybe I need to lead by example more. Maybe I need to get out there and really make sure I convey to them what my attitude is, so they can take that on that same attitude, which goes back to, being visible and being out there and engaging with people. And, what I've learned from a leadership perspective that I think is really, really important is you can bring in a spokesperson, you can bring in an edified expert, but so often now, especially these last 5 years or so, people want to know who's behind the company, what's the company's story, what's the mission, what's the vision, and is this some paid actor coming in to tell everybody how great everything is, or is this someone who's living this, who's got a great story, who just wants to change the world and wants to do their part? And I think that once people figure out that they're just dealing with someone who is basically trying to create transactions, they're out. They're out. And so I think that, what I've learned about leadership is leading by example, and, attitude is a reflection of leadership are things that are so important nowadays. Long gone are the days of, do as I say. It's do as I do, I'll end with this note. 30 years ago at Ford Motor Company, I respected my boss because he was the boss. People just don't respect the boss anymore because he's the boss. People respect the boss now because they respect the person that the boss is. That is such a huge shift, right? And I think that people aren't shifting sometimes and realizing that. Like, you should respect me, I'm the boss. Hey, I got 375 people that work in this building, and I remind them all the time, I don't have 375 people that work for me. I have 375 people that I work for. And that's a mental shift that I think is so important as a leader to have, especially in 2022.
Wow, that is a perfect place to end on. Thank you for that wonderful lesson and insight. And John, thanks for being the leader that you are, for inspiring so many people, for being an incredible advocate for the direct selling channel, and for sharing your wisdom today. I know that I learned a lot, and I know everybody listening did as well. So thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate that. And thank you to all the listeners for, taking some time out. 30 minutes, 60 minutes, that, we're busy people. We really, really are. And so hopefully you found some value here. And, I'm John Licari. John@totallifechanges.com is my email. Industry advocates, people in the industry, my peers, reach out to me. Let's talk. Let's collaborate. Let's talk through some of the challenges that we have. Let's see if we can come up with some solutions to that together. And let's just remember that I think we are so much better together than we are, separate. We know that this is a multi-billion dollar industry. We are not set up here at TLC for that. If we did $10 billion in sales next year, we would probably be out of business, right? So we can't even do that. So there's plenty of business to go around. So let's just try to unite and really, become stronger by being together.
Thank you for being open for that and for being willing to help us all get better. So thank you, John.
My pleasure. Thank you, Wayne, for having me. It's been a pleasure, sir. It really, really has.
Me too. Me too. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in. A reminder to save the date for the Fall 2022 DSU event taking place Thursday, October 6th and Friday, October 7th in Dallas, Texas. Go to dsu2022.com for more details. Thank you again for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.